Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is a paid request for Lucas. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. I also do have a Cash App for those interested. Feel free. It will be for any type of, like I said, review, re-review, topic, reaction, commentary, tier list, ranking, video game playthrough, whatever the case. And I'll get to it as soon as I can. And for those who sent them, thank you. I really appreciate it. And this is for the Batman Season 1. A cartoon that I'd heard a little bit about, but I never watched. I think I watched a film based on it. Well, I've heard of Batman vs. Dracula. I might have seen that once. I do remember liking the film, but it's been a while since I've seen it, so. But I think it was based on this. Now, from what I understand, and the reason I pause is because I'm trying to remember this correctly. A lot of people didn't like this cartoon because of the changes in the designs of the villains. And plus, it's a very tough act to follow Batman, the animated series, with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. And does this show stack up to that show? No. Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman, the way that show was done in terms of style, in terms of lighting, in terms of depth of some of the villains, and depth of some of the stories, and how it could have some very heartfelt moments and the characters. Yes, at least based on Season 1, Batman the Animated Series is well above and beyond the Batman Season 1. With that said, I still liked it for what it was. It definitely felt more like an action show in terms of pretty much every episode has a fight scene with Batman that's pretty decent. It felt more like an action-driven show. Kind of like, although I liked the 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon better, but I do tell like that felt like a much more action-driven show compared to the 80s cartoon. There's action in it, but here is definitely a more fight-driven. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Definitely more a fight-driven show. And the voice cast, you got Reno Romano as Batman, who is a younger guy who's about three years in. And Reno Romano, while he doesn't have the dark cadence and seriousness of the down and dirty brooding Batman like Kevin Conroy gave, he does fine, and I think part of that's nostalgia because this is the same guy that voiced Spider-Man in the PlayStation 1 video game, which I have right here. This game here I grew up with. I love it. It's been a long time since I played this. I'd like to play this again someday. I think they did a sequel as well, which I never played, which that'd be curious. But yeah, he's the voice of Spider-Man in this game. So I'm like, I knew that voice sounded familiar, and that was kind of cool to see him voice Batman now. Granted, again, I kept being reminded of Spider-Man, so maybe that took me out a little bit compared to Kevin Conroy's Batman, but it was still fun to listen to his voice. Alfred, the butler, is voiced by Alistair Duncan, also known as Neil Duncan. The reason I say that is because this is the guy who is Detective Dick Durkin in Split Second. A childhood favorite of mine starring Rutger Hauer. I love Split Second. I know a lot of people don't like that character, but I love Neil Duncan's character with the big fucking guns. So it was cool to have him voice Alfred. I thought he fit very well. It was nice to see that Alfred, he was a bit of a medic, and you definitely feel a bit of the camaraderie, the family friendship between Batman and Alfred in this show. At least again with Season 1. Other people, you have Min Na Wen, who I remember as Chun-Li in the Van Damme Street Fighter film. She was in Mulan, the animated film, the good one. She plays one of two detectives. The other is a guy, I think it's Steve Harris, which I remember he was one of the I think he was one of the soldiers in The Rock. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that. I'm not talking about Tony Todd. There's another guy there. I know I've seen him in a lot of other stuff. But they play two cops. Steve Harris is the one who's a bit more open-minded to Batman, while Ming-Na Wen is a bit more adamant of catching him because he's a vigilante. In the first episode, Edward James Olmos voices the chief, but I guess he didn't want to do a full series, so someone else became his voice later. And there's a lot of familiar voices throughout it. I mean, Bane is voiced by, I always forget the guy's name, but he was Bucho, the villain in Desperado. He was also in this film called Missing, where he played a good guy, which is kind of a sequel to Searching. But I do like that actor. Again, I'm bad with names, but Bucho, I would say, plays Bane in one episode. Clancy Brown, who, of course, been in Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Highlander, Pet Sematary 2, plenty of other stuff. He voices Mr. Freeze, which that was cool to hear. Gina Gershon, who I do enjoy as an actress. Yes, even in films like Showgirls, I still like her. She voices Catwoman. And she definitely has that sultry, playful attitude for her. In one episode, Adam West voices the mayor. I thought that was kind of cool. In one episode, Glenn Shaddix, who played the guy Otho. I always forget Ortho or Otho. I always forget the name wrong. In Beetlejuice. He's a guy helping Catherine O'Hara, wanting to spice the place up. I want to say Otho is the name of the character. Again, I always get that wrong. But Clint Shaddix, who sadly has passed away, he voices a villain in one episode. Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson, he voices a character, the ventriloquist, as well as the dummy Starface. I'm trying to think. I think in the future I read up, like, Robert Englund voices the Riddler, and like there's other familiar actors. So that was very cool. They have these like familiar names part of it. Now, like I said, the way the villains are put into this, I guess again, a lot of people were pissed off with how they changed the villains, how they changed the look of the villains, how they changed. And for the most part, it didn't bother me. Number one, that way it didn't feel like a carbon copy of Batman the Animated Series. It was being its own thing. And I'm not going to say they were better, but they were different, and I thought it was still entertaining to see for the most part. So it didn't bother me as much as it did others. Is it definitive? No. Was it at least made things a bit more interesting to see how this plays out? Sure. Like the first episode, you see Batman find some people. I like this one bit where it's in the shadow and you only see him find people via sparks. I thought that was a nice visual detail. And then you get to the theme song. Now, I'm not a fan of the theme song, I will say. It's this light guitar, like... I'm not a fan of that. I mean, it's not awful, but man... Compared to even like Batman Beyond's theme, which has some really cool guitar work, or let alone the Dan and the Elfman type of score we had, and was a Shirley Walker doing Batman the Animated Series. Here, it just felt very mundane. I'm like, really? That's the theme song? The Batman. I'm like, okay. And it just seemed very lame, to be honest. I did not like the theme song in this. I also thought they kind of jumped the gun that the first episode we bring in Joker. I figured that's a character you could save for later. But they bring in Joker, and he escapes from asylum, and they change the design where he has like more big red eyes, much more bigger yellow teeth. His hair is different. The way he kind of looks like if Rob Zombie designed him. That's kind of how I view it. Like if Rob Zombie designed the Joker, this is what he would look like. And I think it's Kevin Michael Richardson. He voices him, and actually does a decent job. There are elements that kind of remind me a bit of Mark Hamill Joker, but then there's elements that he plays as his own. And I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it. But it's funny, like every villain in, well, almost. Well, okay, that's not true. I don't say every villain knows Kung Fu. That's not true, but there's villains you did not think would know Kung Fu that do, including Joker and the Penguin. Since the Joker can fight, the Joker knows a bit of Kung Fu, has these throwing cards, Joker cards that he'll throw. That's why definitely more of fisticuff, definitely much more of a fighting type of Batman show compared to other versions I've seen. Which is kind of fun to see because that means each episode, at least, you got Batman kicking ass and punching. I can't really complain a whole lot about that. That's what made this kind of not too much of a struggle to watch as a show. Now, again, the animation is not as pristine as, especially the first season of Batman the Animated Series. But, I mean, there's still some style to it sometimes where the sky is blood red. But, I mean, is it as memorable? I did compare, which I know is not fair to compare to that show. But there's still some nice moments. There's an episode with the Man-Bat where we see its point of view of the sonar. So the camera goes around the sewer tunnels and you see its sonar POV. I thought that was really nice. Nice detail they added in there. Gave it a different aesthetic look in those scenes, which I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, the first episode, I didn't mind the look of Joker. I didn't mind the voice they have for Joker. Kind of weird that the first Joker episode here is kind of like the 89 Batman movie in terms of the Joker's goal is to have these balloons. The balloons have this gas. Batman has to take down the balloons like Batman 89, which he does. And very quickly finds an antidote for this guy who got the Joker gas. And then like sometimes like it's a short episode, like they're only 20 minutes long, but sometimes like there's stuff you kind of wish there was a bit more development. Like Batman seems to find Joker's hideout very quickly. I thought, well, how did he find the Joker's hideout? Like, how did he find where Joker was so quickly? I know they kind of explain, but it just seems like we gotta jump ahead because we don't have enough time. And like the way he takes the balloon down just felt a bit too quickly. Already as an antidote, that felt a bit too quickly. So you kind of wish there was a little bit more room for it to breathe. But yeah, it's the first episode with what I read up with such bad publicity. I'm like, it's not that bad. Episode 2, you introduced to Bane, and this time he's a skinny guy who his outlook kind of looks like a cyber ninja, and he's hired by these three to get Batman. He's a hitman. So again, they changed a bit of his backstory, and then he hits the Venom, and when he grows, he becomes like a red Hulk. So it's definitely a step down in the Bane design. Because you think of like the mask and the whole vibe of Bane. Here, I say it didn't bother me. I will say when he got bigger, he reminded me of, there's a character in the 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon called Hun. And when it got to the movie Turtles Forever, that character turned into part turtle, because of some DNA, some other stuff. So how he's much bigger and how he's kind of heads deformed. It kind of reminded me of this, only he was green and this guy's red. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Like I said, do I prefer it over how Bane usually looks? No. I don't really know why he's red. I guess just because. But like I said, at least it's something a bit different, and it's not just the same old, same old. And I guess with a cartoon, there are exceptions, but I can deal with it somewhat. Unless you're Seth Rogen or such, and you do shit jobs in Ninja Turtle movies. But I can understand, like, if you're a hardcore Batman fan, read all the comics, lived and breathed this character, I can understand why these designs may be like, what the fuck? But it's like, I'm of the thing where I like Batman, but it's not like I read all the comics and, grew up with it. Like, I grew up with some of the movies, and even you just say, well, Batman kills in those, so it's not really Batman, and I like Batman. I'm not a diehard fan in terms of, like, I'm a diehard Ninja Turtles fan. That's kind of where my wheel is at, my realm. And how I could be very critical on stuff on that, which people go, oh, what's the big deal? I'm kind of on the other side of the fence with this. I can understand it. I can appreciate people complaining about it. It just, again, me not being a diehard fan, it doesn't affect me as much compared to others. But I can still understand their rationale. But yeah, Batman's using gadgets and bombs, and Batman gets smashed up against the wall. Doesn't do the break in the back, but gets screwed up. Throughout these episodes, you have those two cops I mentioned that will either chase Batman or try to investigate Batman or try to find who Batman is. They do a bit that's reminiscent of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, where Batman's hiding, but instead of Spider-Man, which was a drip of blood, here's a drip of sweat. He's making sure it doesn't fall onto a cop. Try to have a little bit of suspense there. Alfred, who we see as a former medic, shows up, cares for Bruce. And then Alistair Duncan's doing a great job with the voice acting of Alfred. So Batman creates this Bat-Bot in order to fight Bane, which is a cool looking mechanism. They have a pretty decent fight, and he's able to zap the venom spot of Bane and take care of business. Even though he got like one of his robot arms ripped off, and he got pretty much incapacitated, but was able last minute to grab something and stop the villain. I would say so far, like, these episodes, sorry, I look like I'm chewing my thoughts down. They didn't, like, they were fine. They were fine because they were fast paced. There was a decent amount of action. Not mind the voice acting. Not sure if this was stuff I would ever watch again. Like Batman Beyond, I saw season 1 and went, you know what, I would watch that again. That was really cool. I like to pick that up sometime. Same with the anime series of Batman. This, it's like, it's fine, but I say it doesn't have the future aspect, intriguing visual aesthetics and imaginative creations because it takes place in the future that entices me. It doesn't have a bit more of the depth that the original Batman cartoon had. Or I'll call the original, the previous cartoon this. It's fine. It's decently fast paced. There's some decent action. It didn't bother me a whole lot. Same with episode 3. This owl steals this woman's necklace, and we see a younger Oswald Cobblepot with these like Kabuki twins, which is an interesting bit of difference. Never thought I would see a young Oswald and Bruce Wayne at a rave club. Ooms, 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 ooms. And Oswald saying, "We're young, rich, and handsome." And he's hitting on women after they tell Oswald to fuck off. And like I said, it's a very action, like fight centered show, and I kind of appreciate that because I'm a sucker for fight scenes. And like the Tabuti twins, they unveil and they have like these pink bodies. Maybe they're robots. I don't know what they are, but they start fighting Batman, and Batman takes those two of them on. We find out Pennyworth, Alfred, his family kind of knew the Oswald Cobblepot family. So this is something a little bit different they added in. It was kind of interesting. Alfred looks into it. He gets over his... gets into trouble. Batman comes in, saves him. Deals with the pink ninjas who have these like Veda, Street Fighter Veda claws, able to capture them in a cage. And Penguin knows Kung Fu as well, just like Joker did. He does this multi-tit. I never thought I would see the Penguin jump up and do a tit on Batman, but here it is here. It made me go, does he learn in the Orient? He learned... Well, I don't think he said the Orient. Well, did he? He learned overseas. And they have this fight, including they fight amongst this tree, and I'm trying to think if that's the one where there was a storm going on. No, this is it. That's another episode. The fight amongst this tree. Batman pulls the chain, punches him. Then later on, Penguin tries to attack him. Batman just tits him like the bitch he is. Penguin, that is. He flies and all this seed falls onto him. So yeah, it was interesting to see Penguin know a bit of Kung Fu. That was a bit different. The fight scenes are entertaining enough. They don't hold back in terms of like Batman can punch, which is something Spider-Man could not do in the 90s cartoon. So Batman seems to get away with a bit more scot-free, being able to punch people in his cartoons, which is nice, as it should be. So again, I'll go through these three. It's like, okay, we got Joker, we got Bane, we got Penguin. It's familiar villains, but we see a little bit of differences with each one, so it doesn't feel like a carbon copy. Even though, like I said in the first episode, there's a bit with the balloons and the gas, which again reminds me of Batman '89. Like I said, the way Joker looks and the fact he's able to fight, and Bane and the different look he has. I'm trying to remember. I didn't see a whole lot of the Bane where he has the code of honor. At least as much as I've seen Bane in others. Maybe there's a teeny bit of that, but not as much as I did other shows. Then Penguin, him trying to hit on women, him being a bit younger, him knowing a little bit of Kung Fu, having these kabuki lady hench women. It made it seem at least a bit more unique, so it didn't feel like a carbon copy. So I did appreciate that. Episode 4, we got Man-Bat. Episode 5, we got Mr. Freeze. Episode 4, cops chase these bats to Wayne Industries, and you find out this doctor there is doing research. Bruce Wayne doesn't know about it, but this guy lies that it's to help people with their deafness. So Bruce Wayne goes to talk to this girl, and he does the sign language, and the girl's like, "What the hell are you doing? Hey, this guy's weirdo." And he realizes he's been lied to, and then this guy, he just wants to be a bat. And this is a lot of the villains, they don't have as much of the depth. Now, at the last episode of this season, it does seem like that's going to change. But I'm just saying, with the rest of it, they're pretty... Which is good, and it depends. On one end, it's fine. Because sometimes you just want to see a show where the good guys are the good guys, the bad guys are the bad guys. Because even I get tired of always having the sympathetic villain. Oh, the sympathetic villain. Oh, we feel sorry for him. Oh, boo-hoo. Now, sometimes that could work very well, like Mr. Freeze and Heart of Ice, which was one of the best episodes of Batman the Animated Series, which really defined Mr. Freeze and made him a very interesting character. But if you want to see a show where it's just, no, they're just bad guys, I could be fine with that, because if I want the Mr. Freeze deeper part, I'll watch Batman the Animated Series. But if I want to see Mr. Freeze, it's just a bad guy who needs to get his ass beat, I could watch this. So at least you have your preference of which you prefer. Or you watch both and get a little dish of both. I get a little bit of this, I get a little bit of that. So doing episode 4 Man-Bat, I would say I liked the Man-Bat episode more in Batman Animated Series, which it was cool that Mark Senior voiced the character. I liked that episode a bit more. I thought there was a little bit more to the story, a little bit more to the action. But this was still interesting. I did not mind the look of the Man-Bat. The fact that he'll change back and forth, and he's really adamant to want to do this change. It's less the tragic figure of Batman Animated Series. It's more of, yeah, I can't wait to do this. And like I said, I do like when it goes into the sewers, the sonar POV of Man-Bat. I do like the look of that. I do like the way they animated that. Like I said, I don't mind the design. Batman outwits him, has his device to screw up his sonar ability, able to make so he gets knocked the hell out, and he reverts back to normal, and the cops arrest him. So I did like the finale of that. Like I said, I keep repeating it, but I do like the way they do the sonar POV. I thought that was a bit interesting visually. Mr. Freeze, you have Clancy Brown. I actually like the design of Mr. Freeze, with the way the helmet is and the way the face is, where I don't want to say it looks like a blue flame, but it kind of reminded me of that. I did like the design. I did like the look of the suit. And instead of having a gun, he could shoot the ice out of his hands. I thought that was interesting. Apparently the roosters are this farm middle of nowhere, just how it is. There's farmland animals anywhere, so just, I have to deal with it. But in this point, though, Mr. Freeze is just a jewel thief. That's all he is. There's no deep backstory, there's no deep plot, there's no deep part of the character. He's just a jewel thief that will freeze you and not care if you die. And apparently he agrees as well. That, yeah. He saw the episode as well. Now, they do have the lame, like, have an ice evening. Or diamonds, they're like lovely little glaciers. I'm like, are you Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze? With these, like, puns, ice puns? And apparently the backstory is that he was a thief. Batman chased him into this cryogenics lab. Or cryonics. It was a cryonics lab. He got stuck in. He got froze. He's now this figure. So again, it's not much of a depth emotional palette as Mr. Freeze usually has. So as a character, I think for me it's a downgrade. Although I do like his look. And there's not a whole lot of depth to Batman himself throughout the show. Once in a while, like in this episode, you have a little bit of stuff where he remembers his parents. At first he's thinking, like, maybe I should stop being Batman, but then he has this hallucination where his parents are walking down, but then instead of the gunman, it's Mr. Freeze shooting at them, and he kind of snaps out of it. He's like, no, I gotta defeat Mr. Freeze. Once in a while they give Batman a bit of a lame one-liner. Like, he goes up to Mr. Freeze and goes, let it snow. I'm like, let it snow? That's your badass line, Batman? Let it snow. What's next? Deck my halls. Or, I mean, what? Silent Night. I'm not just the Dark Knight. I'm the Silent Knight. Like, what? I mean, come on. Let it snow? Like, I don't even know what the hell that means in the context of what Batman says. Let us know what? Your semen? Like, cocaine? Don't throw a bunch of cocaine in his face? That's such a dumb line. I do like that he uses a flamethrower, but granted, he doesn't get to use it a whole lot. I wish he used that flamethrower a lot more. Because I like the idea of Batman using a flamethrower against Mr. Freeze, but he only uses it for like 5 seconds. Which is disappointing. And say he uses his car, and Freeze like, hey, word of advice, snow tires. Batman hits it, and the bat thrusters screw up Mr. Freeze, and he captures Freeze. So it's definitely not up to par with Hard as Ice and those other Mr. Freeze episodes in the Batman the Animated Series. But it was nice to hear Clancy Brown, who gave a very sinister voice performance as Freeze. I mean, it's Clancy Brown. He's a great actor, great character actor. Like I said, I do like the design of it. I like that he shoots out of his hands. It made it a bit unique. But yeah, I thought his backstory and some of the lines they give him and Batman were a bit cringy. So, yeah, take that for you will. It's like, there's some stuff I like, there's some stuff I don't. Yeah. Episode 6, yeah, Gina Gershon as Catwoman. I'd probably still say I prefer Adrienne Barbeau's voice in the animated series, but I thought Gina Gershon had a bit more of that sultry, sexy vibe to her, and the skin-tight outfit, and I actually liked the gray outfit Catwoman had in the animated series. Here they go more back to not just black, but more of the, like, more pronounced mask with the ears and stuff. Kind of like what you would see in the movie The Batman. The way that Catwoman looked. But I like Gina Gershon. I like that she voices the character. Pretty much Batman chases her. She steals his utility belt. Now you're thinking, okay, she's going to use this for a lot of purposes. But it's mostly her kind of playing around with it, trying to see how it ticks. And accidentally making stuff in the bat layer happen. Either the Batbot that we saw in the episode where Bane comes alive and Batman has to fight it, or the Batmobile drives itself and Batman has to chase it in his motorcycle. So for pretty much the Chuck episode is more of, I don't want to say it's play for laughs, but it's just like, okay, the utility bell is kind of there just to these kind of almost, again, not quite comedy hijinks, but I think with the utility belt they could have had her do a lot more with it, by doing certain jobs, doing certain things with it. But pretty much Batman gets the Batmobile, he's able to disable some of the other stuff, finds where Catwoman's at. Catwoman is stealing this thing from these folks who send their ninjas against her, and then, hey, the finale is Batman and Catwoman fighting ninjas, so it can't be all that bad. And that was an entertaining scene. Batman helps Catwoman, and they also go on these kind of balcony and these, not banisters, but these, they go different levels fighting these ninjas. I thought that was kind of cool. I would like to see Batman kick a little bit more ninja ass, to be fair, but it was kind of neat to see ninjas, this early in the show, and Catwoman was able to hold her own. She was able to show a little bit of her humanity and helping Batman at one point. And she gets back the utility belt, and of course she disappears, so we know she'll be back eventually. Which is nice because, again, I like Gina Gershon. I do like her voice performance. And that was definitely a big plus for me. Like I said, I wish more was done with utility belt instead of just screwing stuff up in the layer that Again, wasn't quite for comedy, but close to it. But overall, like I said, I'm a big Gina Gershon fan, so that helped a lot. Episode 7, Firefly. This is where you get Adam West as the voice of the mayor. Pretty much Bruce Wayne and his company, Wayne Enterprises, they want to sponsor this children's hospital, but another group called Gotham Corporation, they want to do it, and Bruce is like, but yeah, you can't trust those guys. Yeah, but the way you are, behave as this night owl, going out with women, we kind of would go with these guys. So Batman's having to deal with that, but he's also having to deal with Firefly. And this is where one example where the design and the change wasn't really for me. I know, I guess for a lot of these villains, it wasn't for a lot of people. For me, this Firefly, I don't mind his sleeker look in terms of the mask. I think the mask looks pretty cool. But he's just a mercenary with wrist lasers as well as the jetpack. I much prefer the sociopathic arsonist with the actual flamethrower. I just think that looked more cool. That was seemed more badass. It seemed more visually arresting as a visual and just seemed much more dangerous. And in this crazy arsonist that just wants to burn everything down, wants to let the world burn. Here, I work for someone, I got lasers coming on my wrist. And that's the thing, you don't really see a lot of realistic guns in this show. A lot of times it's lasers or some other gun. So something I kind of noticed throughout this. So I just thought that was a pretty big downgrade. But one interesting thing about this I realized is that almost every episode, Batman has a new gadget or a new item. Whether it be the Man-Bat, he's using the glider. Whether it be the Catwoman, you got the Batman motorcycle. Even the Man-Bat, you got the sonar thing in the... What was it? Mr. Freeze. Oh, I didn't even mention that. That was my favorite part. He knows it's cold, so he has this snowsuit on. Where it's like the Batman costume, but it's white. And there's... His mouth is covered. It's a mask, you see the eyes, but the mouth is covered. It's all in white. It's to deal with the temperatures. I thought that looked really cool. That was a really neat design. So I'm glad I didn't forget that, because that was my favorite costume throughout the whole season, was that snowsuit Batman had. That looked really neat. Not a great idea why you wouldn't use it, because you're trying to blend in with the shadows, and having a white suit doesn't really work with that, but I really liked the look of that. I thought that was really neat. But yeah, like Bane, yeah, the bot that he has. I guess there's nothing really with the Penguin one, but usually he has some kind of new costume or new device to use, which is fine, because Batman, it makes sense. And this one, he's got a jetpack, and then you have this dueling jetpack fight where they're chasing each other, and like he leaves a blue trail, and then Firefly leaves an orange trail. I thought that was kind of a nice little visual dynamic to tell the two apart. You have fun chase between the two of them. I do like when they land, you realize how Firefly is not a fighter, and Batman just beats his ass easily. Like, come and get it, flips him, tosses him, able to beat him very succinctly. I thought that was really nice. It made a change of pace. I mean, we already had Joker and Penguin as Kung Fu guys. Don't have everybody that way, so... At least help change it up a bit. But yeah, the backstory, other than the mask, I don't really like this version of Firefly. That's just me. But overall, I didn't mind the episode. Like I said, there's not really an episode I hated. There's little nitpicks I have with like Mr. Freeze and Firefly and stuff, but I haven't hated any episode so far. Even this one, which some may consider the weakest, was still kind of interesting. Episode 8. Uh, Random people being, or you think is random at first, they're being picked up in these goofy ways, like Udo Kier. He's a piano player. He sits down. There's a whoopee cushion. He's embarrassed, and some figure in this like goofy, like chicken looking thing, like grabs him, pulls him to the piano. Other people are taken, and Batman listens to the disappearance, the kidnappings, and he realizes it's something they're all linked to is this game show from back in the day called Think Think Thunk, where there was a scandal where Glenn Shadix, his character, like I said, Glenn Shadix from Beetlejuice, among others, he was in Demolition Man. He was the guy that Dennis Leary told her, "You look like a couch," at the end of the film. I guess back to the day in this game show, he was a kid that was winning stuff. He was a boy genius who he says that he lost because it was rigged and he deserved to win. So, because of that one event, all this time later, now he wants revenge. Now, I'm sure it could be like, well, wait a minute, really? Because he lost a game show as a kid? Now he's a psycho? You like to hope like maybe there'd be a little bit more to it than that, like a little bit more. But I said it's not a show with, at least for the most part, not a lot of depth until like the last episode, which I'll get to. But I mean, sometimes that's how these villains are. You just either go with it or you don't. To me, I like the idea of these people being put into an evil version of a game show. Like if they don't stump the guy, they get dipped into acid. And Glenn Shadix, I liked him as an actor. He passed away way too soon. Beetlejuice, Demolition Man, I thought he did a good job on both of them. So it was nice to hear his voice in this. And was it the Clue Master, I think he called himself? He also has these little guys as like an evil version of Oompa Loompas. Like, for example, when they took one of the people, they pretend to be these big chess pieces. Because I guess this is this thing where the giant chess is being played. And so they take her, and people think, oh, it's funny, it's just part of the show, when it's not. And then, like, Batman has to fight these little kung fu acting Oompa Loompas. It got a bit silly, even for me. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, these little... It's like the little guys from Phantasm. And they're trying to fight Batman. Like, and Batman's supposed to be struggling with these little assholes. It's like, come on now, Batman. Just... Your dick is bigger than these guys. Just hit them with your dick. And knock them out like a baseball bat. Like, come on, Batman. But he's able to save the people. Stop the bad guy. Able to stump him. Oh, I can ask any question for you? Oh, really? Who is Batman? Oh, that's not fair. Hey, you said any question. So I do like that. I do like the way he outwits the guy. And very simply, too. Yeah, who's Batman? Yeah, you don't know, so you're wrong. You don't know the answer to it. So I do like that. Simple but effective. Batman showing his brain. But he's able to take care of the guy pretty easily, pretty much tie him up with his... Which makes sense because he's not a fighter. But I mean, hell, Joker and Penguin all of a sudden would come through fire, so I was expecting this guy to be one too. So I mean, for how quirky it is with the game show aspect, it was kind of fun. Like I said, I did like Glenn Shadix, but again, the little Oompa Loompa guys... I'm like, come on, Batman, why are you having trouble with these little fucks? But it was what it was. It was okay. Episode 9, I have to say, was my least favorite of the season. It involves the ventriloquist with his dummy Starface. I don't know, I just thought that the voice acting, I thought that the way it was worked into the plot with a guy and you realize they're one and the same, and it's not part of an act, it's part of his psychology. I just with a little bit more depth, I just thought worked so much better in Batman animated series. Here, Dan Castellaneta, he is a good voice actor, but each time I kept hearing his voice, it wasn't Homer Simpson I was hearing. I was hearing either Krusty the Clown or Homer's buddy Lenny. I would kind of hear like one or the other, and I know that's not fair, but I can't help it. I grew up with The Simpsons. I have the first, 10 or 11 seasons on DVD. They stopped making them, and then they made them for like 2, 3 more, then they stopped again. And I'm like, nah, if you're not going to release them all, then I'm not going to keep buying them and have an incomplete set regardless. But yeah, I know it's not fair, but I kept hearing that. I'm like, okay, it's kind of taking me out a bit because I keep hearing these other people sounding like you. There's also the subplot where Alfred is trying to get Bruce Wayne on a date using some app, which I didn't give a rat's ass about. I don't care about him using an app. Swipe left. I don't care. Just didn't interest me. And then also this ventriloquist, for some reason, has a giant robot version of the dummy as well. Where something happens to the dummy, then he's got like a giant version of the dummy that's holding the ventriloquist. I'm like, where the hell did you get this? And pretty much Batman does some things. It goes on the railroad track, just smashes the thing. And the ventriloquist is like, we're going to Maui or wherever the hell, Miami, or we're going to go somewhere. I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me. Not the plot, not the version of this ventriloquist character. It just, Maybe it was the voice, maybe just the action scenes didn't do much for me. The subplot, I didn't think was that intriguing. Just wasn't for me. So I would say that was my least favorite. Now, episode 10. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. Just it's hard to remember every episode, so I apologize for the silence. Yeah, Joker. This was interesting because Joker was actually using a bit of his wit, a bit of his mind games with Batman. He does this thing where he can make people turn into cards. Where he does this thing, then people are trapped in these like full size playing cards, which was weird. I don't know how the hell he makes that work. It was different. But what I mean by the mind games is you think Joker has escaped and Batman is chasing for him, then realizes too late that it's a fake Joker and the real Joker has been in the asylum all along for a reason, so that Batman to be not ready for Joker to have this thing that this guard had helped him out with and able to screw over Batman and escape. You know, they didn't play these mind games with them. I did like the scene where Batman's trapped in the cell and he can't get out. So he uses his brain. Joker had some makeup, so he puts makeup on himself and pretends to be the Joker. So that the guard's going, what the hell? And then when he comes in, Batman tricks his ass. And I did like that. I did like Batman kind of outwitting someone by pretending to be the Joker. I thought that was kind of... I haven't seen that done a whole lot before. He gets out and is able to find Joker and fight him. At least this plot of the Joker is a little bit more unique compared with the first episode, which again reminded me a bit too much like Batman 89 with the balloons here. At least it felt a little bit more different. As I said, Kevin Michael Richardson is really holding his own as the voice of the Joker. I said the look of him didn't bother me. He does seem like a bigger guy with like bigger green hair, and like I said, the big red eyes. Definitely seems like a more intimidating looking Joker. And like I said, with the voice work, They fit rather well. But Batman's able to take care of his ass and save the day, which, of course, as he should. Episode 11, that's the other one with Penguin, where the Penguin wants to. This is interesting. Oswald wants to steal Bruce Wayne's money. This is kind of nice that he wants. That he's dealing with Bruce without knowing that he's Batman. And with the way Oswald's been set up, where he was from a family who was rich, but they're not rich anymore, so he's envious of Bruce Wayne, so he wants to steal his shit. That's kind of an interesting way to take the plot in that direction. You also have this bit with the paparazzi following Bruce Wayne, and you don't, there's the fear of that maybe they'll find out that he's Batman. It leads to Batman trying to help the paparazzi, but then getting knocked out, able to get out of it, fight the Penguin. Kind of a cool looking shot where they're fighting in the rain, going back and forth fighting in the rain. It's a nice visual. Very hard to make rain work effectively on an animated show. But I thought they did a pretty good job. I didn't mind the fight scene. I like the idea of Alfred kicking the tape of the paparazzi gets loose and he accidentally kicks it in. Oops, sorry. I also like the idea of Alfred dressing up as Batman to fool the paparazzi. So they see Bruce and they see Batman. Whoop, I guess he's not Batman. So I like that. And then you realize that Alfred put the costume on wrong. And it's like, hey, I was in a hurry. There's a little bit of nice fun banter between the two. So he did a decent penguin story. It's still weird that he knows martial arts so well, but I mean, okay, he's a different type on Penguin. Give you that. The paparazzi story I thought worked a bit better compared to the other story where he's trying to get a date, or Alfred's trying to give him a date. It was a bit better interwoven within the story, so I could at least appreciate that. So I didn't mind that episode. And then episode 12 and 13 are connected, where Batman fights these two fat Joker henchmen, and he's going after the Joker. The two cops we've seen throughout, Mina Win and I think Steve Harris, I think that's his name. I get that they're having pressure from the chief of police, but the fact that Steve Harris is now gun-ho to capture Batman, even though he sees that Joker's getting away and Batman's trying to help. And this is the same character that before goes, he's a good guy. This guy saved my life. He saved your life in the Man-Bat episode. Because the Man-Bat grabbed him and then Batman saved him. And Steve Harris was gratified for that. And it's weird is that after that, after certain things, he even goes, what was it? He sticks up for Batman, the character of Bennett. When the Joker is caught, and they said, "Oh, it's up. Thanks to our cops." It's like, "What are you talking about? Batman did this and Batman did that." Sticking up for him. So it's just weird that before he was so adamant to stop Batman, and I don't know, that seemed a bit out of character. Like if the dialogue was interwoven, which I don't want to do this, I don't like doing this, but I have to do it. Like if that was interwoven more into the dialogue instead of him just being like, "Batman, I must stop you," and Batman's like, "What are you doing?" I think that would have worked out better writing wise and dialogue wise. But again, the fact that he just seems to gun all this stuff almost out of the blue when Batman has saved him, I just thought that was a bit weird. And then the cop gets captured. Joker. It doesn't go on for too long because it's a cartoon. It's only 20 minutes long, and that don't be too scary with things. But you do get the idea that he's breaking the guy's mind. And then you get some nice visuals where the cop like falls into a badge. Not impaled or anything, but just falls and there's a badge on the ground, a giant badge. He's fallen and a Batman, saves him or trying to save him. But then one thing leads to another. Batman goes in there and saves him. Hits his device. Some gas erupts in the room. The Joker gas. Batman, I think, chases Joker to this hole of mirrors. Or should do like Batman says say cheese and punches him. I mean, for some reason I give Batman sometimes these really cringe like one-liners that I don't think Batman needs. But he does take out Joker. The cops think they did it. The chief of police does. Steve Harris says, hey, wait a minute. Batman did all the work. And the cops try and tell him to shut up about it. And then the last episode is where we finally get a bit of depth into a villain, because these cops that we've been following, we see a change in them. I thought that was the most interesting part of the season. Was in the last episode, we realized that the gas affected that cop and he becomes Clayface. Okay, wow. So this whole time we've been seeing... That's why I wish we could have gotten we did a bit of development of the Steve Harris character, that he was good friends with Bruce Wayne. They played basketball together. He did stuff for Bruce. If Bruce says so, you could count on him. So there is a little bit of development in there. At least compared to other cartoons. So if he's turned to Clayface, and like he's trying to say, please, please help, and people are shooting at him. And so he wants revenge on the chief of police that he feels screwed him over. Batman has to try to stop him. The guy mentions all it takes is one rotten day. So that's kind of a little nod to the Killing Joke. Because Joker messed up with his mind. That's why I wish in the previous episode they could have gone further with breaking his mind. Now, granted, maybe they think that would be too intense for kids. But I wish they could have gone further to really show the degradation of this cop's mind. I wish they would have pushed further. I get why for the kids, but I would have preferred seeing a bit more pushed. So the last episode would be even more effective. As is, I don't mind the design of Clayface. I thought it looked pretty good for this show. I like that there's a personal connection with Bruce and Batman with this character. That was a nice bit of change of pace. He tries to kill the chief of police. Batman has to stop him. There's even a fight that goes into a bathroom and he's throwing Batman, and Mina Wen says, what are you doing? Come on, this isn't you. And you can tell Clayface is discombobulated, he's frustrated, he's sad, he's just fed up, he doesn't know what to do, he kind of drifts away. And you see this change where now Steve Harris, he is going to be out there as Clayface doing who knows what. While Mina Wen, as she sees who the Batman truly is, she goes, yeah, the city needs Batman. And now she's going to be the ally to Batman. And Batman even gives her a thing, says, whenever you need me, you contact me. So we see this change where now Clayface, he's more angry against Batman because he stopped him from getting the guy he wanted. But then Mina Wen, who was against Batman for the season, is now an ally. So kind of that shift in alliance was a bit interesting. It definitely leaves you intrigued as to what will happen next. Finally, we get a villain with a little bit more depth compared to other villains. It definitely was an interesting little bit of a darker way to end the show. A bit of a tragic way. Where Bruce Wayne and Mina Wynn are talking to each other. They both think they see Steve Harris. They walk out and the guy disappeared. Does he look like anybody, anything? He's Darkman. But, okay, that leaves a bit of, again, intrigue for viewers to see what happens next. So I would say overall, I liked it. I didn't love it. It doesn't replace Batman the Animated Series. Batman the Brave and the Bold, I would actually like to give another look at that show. Because I remember that show being like more goofier and sillier, so I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but that's actually a show I'd like to give another look one day. But as a show that, again, is much more of a fight-oriented type of action show, it's not going to replace Batman the Animated Series, but it was a nice to see something a bit different. So it does enough things to try to stand on its own 2 feet and not be a copy. I don't mind the voice cast. Some of the changes to the villains I don't mind. There's definitely enough moments of Batman being a badass, either using his car, using his gadgets, his fisticuffs. So that was nice to see. Reno Romano, he's definitely no Kevin Conroy, but he still does, I thought, a decent job as Batman. I said Alistair Duncan, I thought was a good help for Batman as Alfred. Again, nice to have some of these actors play some of these villains, so some recognizability. Some part for the fun for me is, oh, it's that guy, and nice to hear their voice because I like that actor or actress. Not big on the music. Definitely for me a step down from the animated series or Batman Beyond. The music I thought was not the best. Like I said, the lack of depth in a lot of the villains, the much more simple, take it or leave it. Some are less, like Mr. Freeze. Some are fine, like again, the most one that has depth is the last one, Clayface. I kind of like. I didn't see that coming. That's how they were going to introduce Clayface in this. So I thought that was kind of refreshing and kind of bit of inspired bit of business. I'm like, okay. Stepped it up a bit. That's cool. Ended with a little bit of a bang. That was nice. The action scenes in the last episode, it was like, I think because like Batman, he's friends with this guy, so he doesn't really go one or go full force. So the action scenes were not up to par for me compared to the other episodes, but the emotional aspect a little bit more. So it sacrificed a bit of the action, but you had a little bit more of the emotion. So we find more of a balance between the two. Maybe the show gets better. I don't know. But overall, I liked it for what it was. I liked it. As it's an hour and 3 minutes long now. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks once again to Lucas for your generosity. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.